Exhausted rideshare driver Jania Brooks picks up a quiet stranger in Beverly Hills and wakes up the next day with a $200 tip, a mystery, and a ride request that will change everything. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you're watching from today. The night air in Los Angeles felt heavy as Jania Brooks adjusted her rearview mirror and checked her rideshare app. It was already 11:30 p.m. and she had been driving for 6 hours straight. Just 2 more rides, she told herself. 2 more and she could call it a night. At 26, Jania wasn't where she thought she'd be. College degree in business hanging on her wall, yet here she was, driving strangers around the city every night. Her daytime job as an administrative assistant barely covered rent, so the night shifts were non-negotiable if she wanted to chip away at her mountain of student loans and send money back home to Louisiana. Just keep moving, she muttered to herself, the mantra that had carried her through the toughest times. Her phone pinged, a new ride request from the Beverly Hills area. Good, those usually meant decent tips, and she needed every extra dollar. Jania pulled up to a sleek building with a minimalist entrance. No doorman, no flashy signs, just clean lines and understated elegance that screamed money without having to shout about it. A man stepped out of the building, looked at his phone, then glanced up at her car. He was tall, dressed in simple dark jeans and a grey sweater that probably cost more than her weekly earnings. No flashy jewelry, no designer logos, just quiet confidence. "Jania?" he asked as he slid into the back seat. "Yes, that's me. I'll be taking you to..." She checked the app. "Sunset Boulevard?" "That's right." His voice was calm, almost soft. Not what she expected from someone coming out of a building like that. Jania nodded and pulled away from the curb. Her playlist hummed softly in the background, a mix of neo-soul and jazz that kept her company during long nights. "I like your music," the man said after a few minutes of silence. Most passengers buried themselves in their phones, barely acknowledging her existence. This one seemed different. "Thanks," she replied, keeping her eyes on the road. "It helps keep me awake during these long shifts." "You work late often?" "Every night except Sundays." She didn't know why she was telling him this. Maybe it was the way he asked, genuine curiosity rather than forced small talk. "That's dedication," he said. "What do you do during the day?" Jania glanced in the rearview mirror. He was looking out the window, not at his phone. "I work at an insurance office. Filing, scheduling, answering phones. Nothing exciting. 2 jobs," he said, nodding. "That's impressive," she shrugged. "That's life." They fell into silence again as she navigated through the city. The lights of Los Angeles stretched out before them, a carpet of stars brought down to earth. "Do you like books?" he asked suddenly. The question caught her off guard. "Yes, actually. I don't have much time for reading these days, but I love books." "What's the last good one you read?" Jania thought for a moment. "There was this novel about a woman who traveled back in time. Not usually my thing, but it was really about second chances, about what you'd do differently if you could go back." "Any regrets you'd fix?" he asked. She laughed softly. "Too many to count. You?" "Every day." He said it so simply, so honestly, that she found herself looking at him in the mirror again. "Really? You look like someone who has it all figured out." He smiled, and it transformed his face. Appearances can be deceiving. They talked about books, about music, about the city. He never mentioned his job or asked personal questions that made her uncomfortable. Just easy conversation that made the miles pass quickly. As they approached his destination, Jania realized they were heading up into the hills, to an area where the houses were hidden behind tall gates and security systems. "Just up ahead on the right," he directed. She slowed the car as they approached a discreet gate set into a high wall. Nothing flashy, no golden emblems or ornate designs, just solid security and privacy. The man tapped something on his phone, and the gate began to slide open. Jania couldn't help but gasp. Beyond the gate, illuminated by subtle landscape lighting, stretched a modern estate with clean lines and walls of glass that reflected the city lights below. It wasn't ostentatious, but it radiated wealth and taste. "This is you?" she asked before she could stop herself. He smiled again, that same genuine smile that reached his eyes. "This is where I sleep anyway." He handed her a tip in cash, several bills folded together. "Thank you for the ride, Jania. I haven't felt this normal in years." Before she could respond, he was out of the car and walking toward the house. The gate closed silently behind him. Jania sat there for a moment, staring at the closed gate, then down at the money in her hand. $200 for a 20-minute ride. What just happened? she whispered to herself, shaking her head as she pulled away. The next morning, Jania dragged herself into the insurance office 15 minutes early, as usual. Her boss, Mrs. Henderson, a woman who wore her 20 years at the company like armor, barely looked up from her computer. "Coffee's not made yet," was all she said. "Good morning to you too," Jania muttered under her breath as she headed to the break room. Same routine, different day. By lunchtime, her eyes were burning from staring at spreadsheets. She grabbed her sandwich and headed to the small courtyard behind the building, her daily escape. Her phone buzzed. A text from her cousin Zora back in Louisiana. Money came through. "Tiana says thank you a million times. She got the textbooks. You're an angel." Jania smiled. Tiana, her youngest cousin, was the first in their family to go to college. Every sacrifice was worth it to see her succeed where Jania had struggled. "Tell her to study hard. Love you both," she texted back. The afternoon crawled by in a haze of filing and phone calls. By 5:30, Jania was already thinking about her night shift. Maybe she'd start earlier tonight. That unexpected tip from the strange man could be put right toward her loan payment. As she walked to her car, a reliable but aging Honda, her phone pinged with the rideshare app notification. She frowned. She hadn't even opened the app yet. It was a private ride request. Same name as last night, Alec. Jania stared at her phone. Private requests weren't unusual for regular clients, but after just one ride, and scheduled for 7 p.m., not late night like most of her rides, curiosity got the better of her. She accepted the request. At precisely 7 p.m., Jania pulled up to the same building from the night before. This time, he was already waiting outside, dressed similarly to the previous night, casual but clearly expensive clothes. "Good evening," he said as he slid into the back seat. "Evening," she replied. "Where to tonight?" "I was thinking Malibu, if that's not too far. There's a restaurant on the beach, quiet place, good food." Jania nodded and set the GPS. "That's quite a drive. I'll make it worth your time," he said, then quickly added, I'll compensate you fairly for the distance." She smiled despite herself. "I appreciate that." As they drove, he asked about her day. Not the perfunctory "how are you" that expected "fine" as the only acceptable answer, but genuine questions about her work, her challenges. "So you're basically running that office, but she takes the credit," he said after she described her day. "That's corporate America for you." Jania shrugged. "What about you? What do you do?" There was a slight pause. "I solve problems, find opportunities, connect people with resources." "That's vague," she commented, glancing at him in the mirror. He laughed. "I suppose it is. I'm in venture capital investments." "So you're a businessman," she simplified. "Something like that," he agreed. The restaurant, as he had promised, was tucked away from the main Malibu hotspots, a place where the wealthy went to avoid being seen, she guessed. "Would you like to join me?" he asked as they pulled up. "They make an incredible seafood pasta." Jania blinked in surprise. "Join you? I'm your driver." "Right now, yes. But you could be my dinner companion if you'd like." He seemed genuinely hopeful. "No pressure. I just enjoyed our conversation, and I'm tired of eating alone." Warning bells rang in Jania's head. Rich man asking the driver to dinner? This had "bad idea" written all over it. "I don't think that would be appropriate," she said carefully. He nodded immediately. "Of course, I understand. It was just a thought." He handed her another generous tip. "Would it be possible to pick me up in about 2 hours?" "I can do that," she agreed, taking the money. "I'll wait nearby." "Thank you, Jania. I appreciate it." As she watched him walk into the restaurant, Jania felt a twinge of something. Regret. Curiosity. She pushed it aside. She wasn't here to make friends or get involved with passengers, no matter how polite they seemed. She found a coffee shop nearby and settled in with her phone, checking in on her cousins and scrolling through news. 2 hours passed quickly, and soon she was back at the restaurant. He emerged, looking relaxed, and their drive back to the city was filled with comfortable conversation. He told her about a book he was reading, a historical novel about the building of the Brooklyn Bridge. "I'll have to check it out," she said as they neared his building. "I could lend you my copy," he offered. "That's okay, I'll find it at the library." He nodded, not pushing. "Do you have a favorite book, one you read over and over?" "Their Eyes Were Watching God," she answered without hesitation. "Zora Neale Hurston. It was my mother's favorite." "I haven't read that one," he admitted. "You should. It's about a woman finding her voice, her independence." "I'll look for it tomorrow," he promised, as she pulled up to his building. This time, when he handed her the tip, there was a business card with it. "My private number," he explained. if you're ever available for a direct hire. No app fees cutting into your earnings. Jania looked at the card. It was simple, elegant. Alec Thorne, it read, with just a phone number. No company name, no title. Thank you, Mr. Thorne. Alec, please. He smiled that transformative smile again. Good night, Jania. Over the next week, Alec requested Jania's services almost every evening, sometimes just for a ride home from his office, sometimes to restaurants or meetings, always with the same respectful conversation, the same generous tips. She learned he was originally from Boston, had gone to Stanford, and had a younger sister who lived in New York. He learned she had grown up in Louisiana, moved to Los Angeles for college on a partial scholarship, and stayed to help support her cousins back home after her aunt fell ill. What she didn't learn was exactly what he did. His venture capital explanation remained vague, and she found herself growing curious. One night, as she dropped him at his gate, she decided to ask, "So, Alec Thorne, what exactly do you invest in? What kind of ventures are we talking about?" He hesitated, his hand on the door. "Tech, mostly. Clean energy. Education initiatives." "Must be successful," she said, nodding toward the gate, hiding his estate. A shadow crossed his face. "Success has many definitions, Jania." With that cryptic response, he was gone, disappearing behind the closing gate. That night, Jania couldn't sleep. There was something about Alec Thorne that didn't add up. He was clearly wealthy, but there was a sadness to him, a loneliness that all his money couldn't seem to fix. Curiosity finally got the better of her. She grabbed her laptop and typed his name into the search engine. Her jaw dropped as the results loaded. Alec Thorne wasn't just some businessman. He was the Alec Thorne, founder of Thorne Innovations, a tech company valued at billions. He had revolutionized renewable energy storage 5 years ago with a breakthrough battery technology, then expanded into everything from medical devices to educational software. And he was known for being almost reclusive. There were very few photos of him, no social media presence, and the articles about him focused on his business acumen rather than his personal life. "I've been driving around one of the richest men in California," she whispered to herself, scrolling through article after article. The next day, when his ride request came through, Jania hesitated before accepting. What was someone like him doing using a regular rideshare service? Why her? When she picked him up, she couldn't help but see him differently. This wasn't just Alec, the polite passenger. This was Alec Thorne, billionaire entrepreneur. "You look tired," he commented as they pulled away from his building. "Long day," she replied, not meeting his eyes in the mirror. "Everything okay?" She took a deep breath. "I Googled you last night." The silence that followed was heavy. She could feel him watching her. "I see," he finally said, "and now you're uncomfortable." "I'm confused," she admitted. "Why are you using a rideshare app? Why me?" He sighed. "The first night was chance. I had a security issue with my regular driver, and I needed to get home. After that," he paused. "After that, it was because talking to you was the most normal I've felt in years. You didn't know who I was. You treated me like a person, not a portfolio." Jania absorbed this. "So I'm what? Your escape from reality? Isn't that what I am for you too?" he asked quietly. "A brief connection during your long nights of work? A conversation to break the monotony?" She hadn't thought of it that way. "I'm sorry if I misled you," he continued. "I never lied. I just enjoyed being seen for myself, not my bank account." They drove in silence for several minutes. "I understand if you want to cancel our arrangement," he said, as they neared his destination, a downtown office building this time. Jania stopped at a red light and finally looked at him in the mirror. "I don't know what I want." His eyes, she noticed for the first time, were a deep, clear blue, honest eyes. "Fair enough," he said. "But for what it's worth, I've enjoyed our rides together, more than you know." The light turned green, and Jania focused back on the road, her mind racing with thoughts she couldn't quite sort out. As she pulled up to the office building, Alec handed her the usual tip. "I have a dinner meeting here. I should be done around 9. Would you be available to drive me home?" Jania hesitated, then nodded. "I'll be here." As she watched him walk into the building, Jania realized she was at a crossroads. The rational part of her brain told her to end this strange arrangement before it got complicated. But another part, a part she hadn't listened to in a long time, wanted to see where this road might lead. "Just one more ride," she told herself, pulling away from the curb. "Just one more." But deep down she knew that with Alec Thorne, nothing would be that simple. The evening air had turned cool as Jania waited outside the downtown office building. She checked her watch again. 9:15. Alec was late. She'd spent the last 2 hours parked at a nearby coffee shop, sipping a latte and trying to make sense of her situation. On her phone screen was an article about Alec Thorne, featuring one of the few photos of him at a tech conference 3 years ago. He looked different there, stiffer, more guarded, his smile not reaching his eyes. Not like the man who laughed in her back seat and asked about her favorite books. A sharp knock on her window made her jump. Alec stood there, his expression apologetic. She rolled down the window. "Everything okay?" "Meeting ran long. I'm sorry to keep you waiting." He looked tired, the lines around his eyes more pronounced. "No problem. That's what I'm here for." He slid into the back seat, loosening his tie with a sigh. "These meetings drain the life out of me." "Tough crowd?" she asked, pulling away from the curb. "Investors who care more about quarterly returns than the actual people our technology could help." He leaned his head back against the seat. "Sometimes I wonder why I bother," says the billionaire, Jania commented, then immediately regretted it. "Sorry, that was—" "No, you're right." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Poor little rich man, complaining about his problems to someone working 2 jobs. An uncomfortable silence fell between them. "That's not what I meant," Jania finally said. "Money doesn't solve everything." "I get that." Alec looked out the window at the passing city lights. "But it solves a lot, doesn't it? That's the thing. I know how privileged I am. I know it every day. And it makes the emptiness feel that much worse, because what right do I have to be unhappy?" The raw honesty in his voice caught her off guard. "Everyone has the right to their feelings," she said quietly. "Even billionaires." He met her eyes in the mirror. "Thank you for that." The tension eased, and by the time they reached his gate, they were talking again about books and music, safe topics that bridged the gap between their worlds. "I have something for you," he said as she stopped the car. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a small package. Jania took it hesitantly. It was a book. Their eyes were watching God. "You mentioned it was your favorite," he explained. "I read it this week. You were right, it's powerful." She ran her fingers over the cover. It wasn't a new copy, but a vintage edition, clearly valuable. "I can't accept this," she said, trying to hand it back. "Please, it's just a book." His eyes were earnest. "I thought we could discuss it sometime." Before she could respond, his phone rang. He glanced at it and frowned. "I have to take this. It's my sister." He stepped out of the car, then leaned back in. "Same time tomorrow?" Jania nodded, still holding the book. "Thank you, Jania, for everything." He closed the door and answered his phone, walking toward the gate. She sat there for a moment, looking down at the book in her hands. This was getting complicated. The next morning at the insurance office, Jania couldn't focus. She'd stayed up late reading her new copy of the book, touching the notes Alec had made in the margins. His observations were thoughtful, showing he'd really engaged with the story. "Brooks!" Mrs. Henderson's sharp voice cut through her thoughts. "The Taylor file? Today, please." "Right away," Jania mumbled, turning back to her computer. Her phone buzzed. A text from Alec. "Had to leave town unexpectedly. Business emergency in New York, back Friday. Still available to drive then." She stared at the message. Was she disappointed? She shouldn't be. This was a business arrangement, nothing more. "Sure, Friday works," she typed back. 3 dots appeared as he typed his response. "Thank you. I've been thinking about what you said about everyone having the right to their feelings. It meant a lot." Jania felt a warmth spread through her chest. Before she could respond, Mrs. Henderson appeared at her desk. "Personal calls on your own time, Brooks." Jania quickly put her phone away. "Sorry, Mrs. Henderson." But all day, her mind kept drifting back to Alec's message. Friday came, and Jania found herself taking extra care with her appearance before her shift. She told herself it was because she had errands to run before picking up Alec, but she knew it wasn't true. When her phone pinged with his ride request, her heart beat a little faster. She pulled up to his building, and he was waiting as usual. But this time he looked different, more relaxed, wearing jeans and a casual button-down shirt instead of his usual business attire. "Welcome back," she said as he got in. "It's good to be back," he replied, and she could hear the smile in his voice. "How was your week?" "Same old. Filing, driving, sleeping when I can." "I have a proposition for you," he said. "But first, I'm starving. Would you mind stopping somewhere for food? You're welcome to join me this time." Jania hesitated. "Where did you have in mind?" "There's a great burger place in Silver Lake. Nothing fancy, just good food." The idea of sitting across from Alec Thorne at a restaurant made her nervous, but she was hungry too, and curious about his proposition. Okay, she agreed, but I'm paying for my own meal. He smiled. Deal. The burger joint was exactly as he described, casual, noisy, and packed with a diverse crowd. No one gave them a second glance as they found a small table in the corner. So what's this proposition? Jania asked after they'd ordered. Alec leaned forward. I'd like to hire you as my private driver. Full-time, with benefits, paid time off, the works. Jania nearly choked on her water. What? I need a driver I can trust. Someone discreet, reliable. You're both of those things. And I enjoy your company, which is a bonus. But I have a job, 2 jobs. That pay less combined than what I'm offering. He named a figure that made her eyes widen. Plus, you'd have regular hours. No more night shifts. Jania sat back, processing. Why me? You could hire a professional security driver. I have those when I need them. What I want is someone normal, someone who sees me as a person, not a paycheck or a stepping stone. He paused. Someone like you. Their food arrived, giving Jania a moment to think. You don't have to decide right now, he added, taking a bite of his burger. Think about it. They ate in silence for a few minutes. What would this job involve exactly? She finally asked. Driving me to meetings, events, some travel but all expenses paid, and complete confidentiality about my schedule and conversations. So I'd be your chauffeur and your secret keeper. He smiled. Something like that. And what happens when you get tired of me, or find someone else to drive you around? His smile faded. Is that what you think of me? That I'd just discard you when I got bored? I don't know what to think, Alec. We barely know each other. I'd like to change that, he said quietly, if you'll let me. Their eyes met across the table, and Jania felt something shift between them. This wasn't just about a job offer. I need to think about it, she said. Of course. Take all the time you need. After dinner, the drive back to his place was quieter than usual. Jania's mind was racing with possibilities, calculations, concerns. Thank you for dinner, she said as they approached his gate. Thank you for considering my offer. He handed her the usual tip. Regardless of your decision about the job, would you be free for dinner tomorrow night? Not as my driver, but as my guest. Jania's heart skipped. Are you asking me on a date, Mr. Thorne? I believe I am, Ms. Brooks. His smile was both confident and vulnerable. I think I'd like that, she said before she could talk herself out of it. His face lit up. I'll pick you up at 7? You'll pick me up? That's a switch. I do know how to drive, he laughed. I just prefer not to in LA traffic. She gave him her address, and they said goodnight. As his gate closed behind him, Jania sat in her car, wondering what she was getting herself into. Saturday evening found Jania standing in front of her closet, staring at her limited options. She'd sent a panicked text to her cousin Zora earlier. Going on a date with a rich guy. What do I wear? Zora had responded with a string of excited emojis and advised, something that makes you feel good. He's already seen the real you, right? Finally, Jania settled on a simple black dress she'd bought years ago for job interviews. It was classic, flattering, and made her feel confident. At exactly 7, her buzzer rang. Alec was right on time. She took a deep breath and opened the door to find him standing there in dark pants and a blue button-down shirt that matched his eyes. He held a small bouquet of wildflowers. You look beautiful, he said, handing her the flowers. Thank you. She felt suddenly shy. Come in while I put these in water. Her apartment was small but neat, decorated with thrift store finds and photos of her family. She was acutely aware of how different it was from his world. Nice place, he said, looking around with genuine interest. It's small, but it's home. It feels like you, he replied. Warm, unpretentious. In the kitchen, as she arranged the flowers in her only vase, Jania noticed Alec looking at a photo on her refrigerator. Is this your family? He asked. She nodded. My cousins, Zora and Tiana, and my aunt Loretta. She raised us after my parents died. I'm sorry about your parents. It was a long time ago. Car accident when I was 10. She placed the vase on her small dining table. What about your family? You mentioned a sister. Chloe. She's 2 years younger, lives in New York, works in fashion design. He smiled fondly. Our parents are still in Boston. Dad's retired from medicine, Mum runs a non-profit. The whole family is high-achieving, huh? They have their expectations, he said with a slight edge to his voice. Ready to go. Jania grabbed her purse and they headed out. She expected a fancy car, but instead, Alec led her to a sleek but understated sedan. Not what you expected? He asked, noting her surprise. I thought billionaires drove sports cars. Some do. I prefer to blend in when I can. He opened the passenger door for her. Besides, I saved the flash for the restaurant. The restaurant, as it turned out, was on the rooftop of one of the most exclusive hotels in Los Angeles. With panoramic views of the city and discreet private seating, it screamed luxury. Maybe I should have worn something fancier, Jania whispered as the host led them to a secluded table. You're perfect, Alec assured her. Besides, I'm a major investor in this hotel. They're not going to turn us away. The meal was incredible, the wine even better. But what Jania enjoyed most was seeing Alec in this environment. He was polite to the staff, but didn't put on airs. He knew the chef by name and asked about his family. He was comfortable with his wealth, but not defined by it. So, he said after they'd finished their entrees, have you thought more about my offer? I have, Jania admitted. It's tempting, but I'm concerned about the boundaries. If I work for you, what does that make of this? She gestured between them. Alec considered her question seriously. Complicated, he finally said. You're right to be concerned. I don't want to be an employee you're dating. It puts me in a vulnerable position. What if we try this first, he suggested. Dating, I mean. See where it goes. The job offer can wait. Jania felt relief wash over her. I'd like that. He reached across the table and took her hand. I like you, Jania Brooks. You're unlike anyone I've ever met. Because I'm not impressed by your money, she teased. Because you see me, he said simply. Not Alec Thorne, the CEO, or Alec Thorne, the billionaire, just me. The intensity in his eyes made her heart race. Their dessert arrived, breaking the moment. As they shared a chocolate souffle, their conversation shifted to lighter topics. Favorite movies, childhood memories, places they wanted to visit. After dinner, Alec drove her home, the city lights painting streaks across his face as they wound through the hills. I had a wonderful time, he said, as they reached her apartment building. So did I. He walked her to her door, keeping a respectful distance. Would you like to do this again, he asked. Jania smiled. I would. Tomorrow? I know this great little bookstore cafe in Pasadena. That sounds perfect. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted, but she didn't. His lips met hers in a gentle kiss that made her feel like she was floating. When they broke apart, his smile was breathtaking. Good night, Jania. Good night, Alec. She watched him walk back to his car before going inside, her fingers touching her lips where his had been moments before. Over the next 2 weeks, Jania and Alec fell into a rhythm. She still drove for the rideshare app, and he still occasionally requested her services as a driver. But more often, they met as equals, at bookstores, parks, small restaurants, where they could talk for hours. He never pushed her about the job offer again, respecting her need for independence. On a sunny Sunday, they walked along the beach in Santa Monica, ice cream cones in hand. My cousins think I'm making you up, Jania laughed. Zora says no billionaire dates normal people unless they're in a Hallmark movie. Alec's smile faltered slightly. Does it bother you, the difference in our situations? She considered the question. Sometimes. I worry that you'll get bored with my ordinary life. Your life isn't ordinary to me, he said, taking her free hand. It's real in a way mine hasn't been for years. They stopped to watch the waves. I've been thinking, Alec said, about asking you to come to a charity gala with me next weekend. It would mean being seen publicly together. Photos, probably some gossip. I understand if that's not something you want. Jania tensed. Would I be going as your driver or your date? My date. Definitely my date. He turned to face her. I'm not ashamed of us, Jania. I want people to know how I feel about you. And how do you feel? She asked, her heart pounding. He touched her cheek gently. Like I've been driving through life on autopilot, and suddenly you've shown me a whole new route. She laughed softly. That was corny, but true. His eyes were serious. I'm falling for you, Jania Brooks. The ice cream melted, forgotten as she stood on tiptoe to kiss him. I'm falling for you too. They walked back to his car, hand in hand, talking about the gala, what she might wear, who would be there. Neither of them noticed the photographer hidden behind a palm tree, camera lens focused on their entwined fingers, their smiling faces. The next morning, Jania's phone exploded with notifications. Texts from Zora, from friends she hadn't heard from in months, even from her old college roommate. OMG, is this you? Zora had written, attaching a link. With a sense of dread, Jania clicked it. The headline screamed across her screen, Tech billionaire Alec Thorne's secret romance with mystery woman. Below it was a photo of her and Alec on the beach, his arms around her waist, her face turned up to his. The article referred to her as an unidentified black woman and speculated wildly about their relationship. Another text came in, this one from Alec. I just saw the article. I'm so sorry. Are you okay? Before she could respond, her boss called. Brooks, there are reporters outside the office asking about you. What the hell is going on? Jania felt the room spin. I'm dating someone. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal? There are paparazzi blocking our entrance. Get this sorted out or don't bother coming in today. The line went dead. Jania looked out her window and saw two men with cameras on the sidewalk across from her building. Her phone rang again. Alec, Jania, please talk to me. I'm coming over. No, she said quickly. There are photographers outside my place too. This is my fault, he said, his voice pained. I should have been more careful. It's not your fault, she said, though part of her felt it was. I need to think. Let me send a car for you. Bring you here where it's secure. The offer was tempting, but something held her back. Not yet. I need some time. I understand, he said, though she could hear the hurt in his voice. Just don't read the comments on those articles, okay? People can be cruel. Too late. She'd already scrolled down to see comments questioning what someone like Alec Thorne saw in a girl like her, speculating that she was after his money, making crude remarks about their racial difference. Who's the black girl behind the wheel, one headline had asked, identifying her as his driver. The words stung more than she wanted to admit. I'll call you later, she promised before hanging up. She sank onto her couch, her mind racing. This was exactly what she'd feared. Her life turned into a spectacle, her worth questioned, her privacy invaded. Her phone buzzed with a text from Zora. Girl, you've been holding out on me. Is he as dreamy in person? And is that beach house in the background his? Jania smiled despite herself. Leave it to Zora to focus on the romantic side of things. It's complicated, she texted back. Turns out, dating a billionaire comes with paparazzi. Worth it for those cheekbones, Zora replied with a winking emoji. But seriously, you okay? I don't know, Jania answered honestly. I really like him, Z, but I don't know if I'm cut out for this life. Don't let fear make this decision for you, Zora wrote. Aunt Loretta always said the things most worth having rarely come easy. Jania set her phone down and walked to the window, carefully peeking out. The photographers were still there, waiting. She was trapped in her own home, all because she'd fallen for a man whose life was deemed newsworthy. Her phone rang again. Unknown number. Hello? She answered cautiously. Is this Jania Brooks? A woman's crisp voice asked. Who's asking? My name is Victoria Chen. I'm head of PR for Thorne Innovations. We need to discuss the current situation. Jania felt a chill. Does Alec know you're calling me? Mr. Thorne has delegated this matter to me, Victoria replied smoothly. I'd like to set up a meeting to discuss how we proceed. How we proceed with what? The media situation. Your relationship with Mr. Thorne has created certain challenges that need to be managed. Jania's grip tightened on her phone. My relationship isn't a PR situation to be managed. Perhaps not to you, Victoria said, her tone cooling further, but Mr. Thorne's image is tied to his company's success. We need to ensure this development is handled appropriately. Have you talked to Alec about this directly? Jania demanded. A slight hesitation. Mr. Thorne is aware of our concerns. I'll talk to him myself, thanks. Jania hung up, her hands shaking. She dialed Alec immediately. Jania, he answered on the first ring. I was just about to call you. Did you tell your PR team to manage me? She asked without preamble. What? No, of course not. He sounded genuinely confused. What are you talking about? Victoria Chen just called me. She wants to discuss how we proceed with our relationship. Alec was silent for a moment. I didn't authorize that, he finally said, his voice tight with anger. She's overstepped. She said you delegated the matter to her. That's not true. I told her to monitor the media coverage, that's all. He sighed heavily. This is exactly what I was afraid of. My world intruding on yours. So what do we do? Jania asked, suddenly tired. Let me come get you, he pleaded. We can talk face to face. Figure this out together. She looked out the window again at the waiting photographers. And give them more photos to splash across the internet? No thanks. I'll send a car with tinted windows. They won't see you. The idea of hiding, of sneaking around, made something inside Jania rebel. Is this what it would always be like? Me hiding? You managing the fallout? No, he said firmly. No, we'll figure this out. Just, please don't give up on us yet. The vulnerability in his voice touched her. I'm not giving up, I just need to understand what I'm getting into. That's fair, he conceded. Will you at least let me send the car? My head of security can coordinate to make sure you're not seen." Jania agreed, and an hour later she was whisked through her building's back entrance into a sleek black SUV with windows so dark she could barely see out. As they drove through the city toward Alex's estate, Jania wondered if she was heading toward a new beginning or the end of her normal life. The gates opened as they approached, and for the first time, Jania drove through them as a guest, not a driver. Alec was waiting at the door, his face lined with worry. When she stepped out of the car, he moved toward her but stopped short of embracing her, uncertain of her mood. "I'm so sorry about all of this," he said. Jania looked up at the beautiful house, then back at the man standing before her, a man who could have anyone but somehow wanted her. "I thought I was someone you chose," she said quietly, "not someone you could afford to lose." The words hung between them as they stood at the threshold of his world, both wondering if she belonged there. "I thought I was someone you chose," Jania said quietly, "not someone you could afford to lose." Alec's face softened. "You are someone I chose. The only one I've chosen in a very long time." He reached for her hand, and after a moment's hesitation she took it. "Come inside," he said. "Please." The interior of Alec's home was exactly what Jania had imagined. Modern, elegant, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. But there was also warmth in the space, comfortable furniture, books scattered on coffee tables, a blanket thrown casually over a couch. "It's not as intimidating as I expected," she admitted, following him to the living room. "What did you expect? Gold toilets?" He smiled, trying to ease the tension. "Maybe a robot butler? He's charging in the basement," Alec joked. Then his expression grew serious. "Jania, about Victoria Chen, is she always so protective of you?" Alec sighed, running a hand through his hair. "My company has a lot of stakeholders. Victoria's job is to protect the brand. Sometimes she forgets where the company ends and I begin. And where do I fit into all this?" Jania asked, sitting on the edge of the couch. "You're part of my life, not my business." He sat beside her, leaving space between them. "I never meant for this to happen, for your privacy to be invaded. I know." She looked down at their still joined hands. "But it did happen. And now I have photographers outside my apartment, and my boss is threatening my job and your PR team wants to manage me. I'll handle Victoria," he promised. "As for your job, if Mrs. Henderson gives you trouble, I can—" "Don't," Jania interrupted. "Don't fix this with money or influence. That's not what I want." "Then what do you want?" he asked softly. It was the question she'd been asking herself all day. "I want to be with you," she finally said. "But I need to know if that's even possible without my whole life becoming tabloid fodder." Alex shifted closer to her. "It won't be easy," he admitted. "But we can find a balance. Set boundaries. I've managed to keep most of my life private until now." "Until me," she pointed out. "Until us," he corrected. "And maybe that's because this feels different, important." The sincerity in his eyes made her heart ache. She leaned against him, and he wrapped an arm around her. "Stay here tonight," he suggested, "in one of the guest rooms. Give the photographers time to get bored and leave. And tomorrow? The next day? What's the long-term plan here, Alec?" "One step at a time," he said, kissing her forehead. "First, I'm going to make us some dinner and we're going to talk about anything but this mess." Jania couldn't help but smile. "You cook?" "I'm a man of many talents," he grinned. "Pasta, okay?" For the next few hours, they existed in a bubble of normalcy. Alec made a surprisingly good pasta carbonara. They shared a bottle of wine and talked about books and movies and Jania's cousins back in Louisiana. By the time they'd settled on the couch with mugs of tea, Jania felt some of the day's tension melting away. "Tell me something I don't know about you," she requested, curling her feet underneath her. Alec thought for a moment. "I wanted to be a marine biologist when I was a kid. Had notebooks full of ocean creature drawings." "What happened to that dream?" "My father happened." His tone shifted slightly. "The Thorn men are doctors or businessmen, not scientists who play with fish. So you became a businessman. I became an engineer first. The business came later, almost accidentally." He took a sip of his tea. "What about you? Did you always want to work in insurance?" Jania laughed. "Hardly. I was going to start my own business. A mobile bookstore that would visit neighborhoods without access to books." "That's a beautiful idea," he said. "What stopped you?" "Life, student loans, my aunt's medical bills." She shrugged. "Dreams got shelved for reality." "It doesn't have to stay shelved," Alex said, eyes brightening. "That idea has real potential. I could help you." "There you go again, trying to fix things," she interrupted, but her tone was gentle. "Sorry, force of habit." He set down his mug. "But seriously, it's a good concept. Maybe someday, she said, not wanting to dwell on abandoned dreams. For now, I'd better get some sleep. It's been a long day. Alex showed her to a guest room that was bigger than her entire apartment. The bed was piled with plush pillows, and a set of pajamas, tags still on, lay folded on the duvet. My assistant picked these up, he explained. I hope they fit. Thank you. She turned to face him. For everything. He leaned down and kissed her softly. Good night, Jania. Good night, Alec. After he left, Jania sat on the edge of the massive bed, overwhelmed by the day's events. 24 hours ago, she'd been a normal person with a normal life. Now she was in a billionaire's mansion, hiding from paparazzi. Her phone buzzed with a text from Zora. Just checking you're alive. News sites are going crazy about you and Mr. Moneybags. I'm fine, she texted back. Staying at his place tonight. Not like that, just avoiding cameras. Girl, you're living a movie right now, Zora replied. But for real, you good? I think so, Jania answered honestly. It's complicated, but he's worth it. She set her phone aside and changed into the pajamas, silk, and exactly her size. As she slipped between the luxurious sheets, she wondered how long it would take to get used to this kind of life, if she even wanted to. Jania woke to sunlight, streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, and the smell of coffee. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then the previous day's events came rushing back. She found a new toothbrush and basic toiletries in the ensuite bathroom. After freshening up and changing back into yesterday's clothes, she followed the scent of coffee to the kitchen. Alex stood at the counter, reading something on a tablet, still in his pajama pants and a t-shirt. He looked younger, more relaxed. Morning, she said. He looked up, his face brightening. Good morning. Sleep okay? Better than I expected. She accepted the mug of coffee he offered. Any news? About us, you mean? He set down his tablet. Victoria sent a press statement saying I'm dating someone new but requesting privacy. Standard stuff. Will that work? For a while. Especially since we're not giving them any new photos to run. He gestured toward a plate of pastries. Hungry? As they ate breakfast, Alex's phone kept buzzing. He ignored it until the third call in 10 minutes. I should take this, he said apologetically. It's my sister. He stepped out onto the patio, closing the glass door behind him. Jania could see him pacing as he talked, his expression growing more frustrated. When he came back in, his jaw was tight. Everything okay? She asked. Just Chloe being Chloe. He tried to smile. She saw the news and has opinions. About me, he hesitated. About the situation. You can say it, Alec. Your sister doesn't approve of you dating your driver. She doesn't know you, he said firmly. Her opinion doesn't matter. But it did matter, and they both knew it. I should go home, Jania said, setting down her coffee. I can't hide here forever. At least let me have someone drive you. The back entrance again. She nodded, too tired to argue. While she waited for the car, Alec pulled her into a hug. We'll figure this out, he promised. Just give us a chance. She leaned into his embrace, wanting to believe him. The photographers were gone from outside her apartment building, but Jania knew it was just a temporary reprieve. She spent Sunday catching up on laundry and avoiding social media. Monday morning, she steeled herself for work. Mrs. Henderson had called again, demanding she come in looking professional, not like someone chasing a headline. The whispers started the moment she walked through the office door. Co-workers she barely spoke to suddenly found reasons to pass by her desk. The office manager, Diane, who had never shown any interest in Jania before, appeared with coffee. So, Diane said, perching on the edge of Jania's desk. Alec Thorne, huh? What's he like in person? Just a normal guy, Jania replied, focusing on her computer. Normal guys don't have private jets and billion-dollar companies, Diane pressed. Come on, give us something. Is his house as amazing as it looks in the aerial photos online? I really need to finish these reports, Jania said firmly. Diane huffed and walked away, but the attention continued all day. By lunchtime, Jania escaped to her car, seeking a moment of peace. She called Alec. How's your day going? He asked, concern evident in his voice. Everyone's treating me like I'm either a celebrity or a gold digger, she sighed. I hate it. I'm sorry, he said, and she could hear the guilt in his voice. What can I do? Nothing. That's the frustrating part. She leaned her head against the steering wheel. This is just our reality now. Not forever, he promised. They'll find someone else to gossip about soon. I hope so. Are we still on for dinner tomorrow? He asked cautiously. She had almost forgotten their plans. Yes, but can we stay in? I'm not up for public places right now. Of course. My place or yours? The idea of Alec in her tiny apartment made her smile. Mine, I'll cook this time. Looking forward to it. After they hung up, Jania felt slightly better. This was hard, but maybe Alec was right. Maybe they could make it work. She returned to the office with renewed determination to ignore the gossip. As she was leaving at the end of the day, Mrs. Henderson called her into her office. "Close the door, Brooks." Jania did as instructed, bracing herself. "I've been approached by 3 different tabloids offering money for inside information about you," Mrs. Henderson said without preamble. "Substantial amounts." Jania's stomach dropped. "I hope you told them no." "Of course I did. What kind of person do you think I am?" Mrs. Henderson looked offended. "But others might not be so ethical. You need to be careful who you trust right now." It was perhaps the closest thing to concern Mrs. Henderson had ever shown her. "Thank you for the warning," Jania said, genuinely surprised. Mrs. Henderson nodded. "And Brooks, try not to let this situation affect your work. The Taylor account still needs attention." "Yes, ma'am." Jania left the office feeling oddly touched by her boss's awkward attempt at support. Tuesday evening, Jania spent more time than usual preparing dinner. She couldn't compete with professional chefs or fancy restaurants, but her aunt's gumbo recipe had never failed to impress. At exactly 7, her buzzer rang. Alex stood at her door with a bottle of wine and a bouquet of the same wildflowers he'd brought before. "I figured these worked once," he said, handing her the flowers. "They still do." She kissed him briefly. "Come in. Dinner's almost ready." Alex seemed completely at ease in her small apartment, asking questions about the photos on her walls and complimenting the smell coming from her kitchen. "It's my aunt's gumbo recipe," she explained as she stirred the pot. "Comfort food from home. It smells incredible." He leaned against the counter, watching her. "How was work today?" "Better. Still some whispers, but people are starting to get bored with me." She ladled the gumbo into bowls. "How about you? Solve any world problems today?" "Just the usual corporate fires." He helped her carry the bowls to her small table. "But I did have an interesting meeting with a literacy non-profit. Made me think of your mobile bookstore idea." Jania raised an eyebrow. "You didn't?" "I didn't what?" "Tell me you didn't talk to them about my idea." Alec looked surprised by her tone. "I mentioned it conceptually. They loved it. They have grant money available for exactly that kind of—" "Stop." Jania set down her spoon. "I appreciate that you were thinking of me, but I don't need you to make my dreams happen." "I was just trying to help," he said, confused. "What's wrong with that?" "Because it's not help when it comes with strings." "What strings? I didn't promise them anything." Jania took a deep breath. "Alec, do you know what people would say if I suddenly got funding for a business after dating you for a few weeks? That I'm using you, that I slept my way into an opportunity." Understanding dawned on his face. "I didn't think of it that way." "Of course you didn't. You're used to making things happen with your money and influence. It's different for me." He was quiet for a moment. "I'm sorry, I should have talked to you first." "Yes, you should have." She picked up her spoon again. "Now, eat before it gets cold." The tension gradually eased as they ate, and by the time they moved to the couch with glasses of wine, they were laughing again about a story Alec told about his college days. "You were quite the nerd, weren't you?" she teased. "Complete with thick glasses and social awkwardness," he confirmed. "Not exactly the cool guy on campus." "I find that hard to believe, the awkward part, not the glasses." "It's true. I was all about my engineering projects. Didn't date much." He took a sip of wine. "What about you? Breaking hearts in college?" "Hardly. I was working 2 jobs between classes. Didn't have time for dating." She curled against him. "Besides, I was focused on graduating and starting my business." "The bookstore?" "Yeah." He was quiet for a moment. "For what it's worth, I still think it's a brilliant idea. Not because we're dating, but because it is. And when you're ready, if you're ever ready, I'd be honored to support it. As an investor, not a boyfriend." She looked up at him. "You'd do that? Keep the 2 separate?" "Of course. I believe in keeping personal and business relationships distinct." "Says the man who tried to hire me as his driver," she teased. He laughed. "Fair point, but I'm learning." They fell into a comfortable silence, the sound of the city outside her windows creating a gentle background noise. "I've been thinking," Alex said finally, "about the charity gala this weekend." Jania tensed slightly. "What about it?" "I still want you to come with me." He turned to face her. Not hidden away, not sneaking in the back. As my date, proudly on my arm. "After everything that's happened this week?" "Especially after everything that's happened." He took her hands in his. "I don't want to hide you away like you're some secret. I want people to see the amazing woman I'm falling for. The intensity in his eyes made her breath catch. There will be photographers, more headlines. Let them talk, he said firmly. I'm not ashamed of us, are you? No, she replied without hesitation. But it's not about shame. It's about privacy. We'll have boundaries, he promised. Rules about what's off limits. But Jania, if we're going to be together, we can't live in hiding. That's not a real relationship. She knew he was right. Okay, she agreed, but I'm buying my own dress. He smiled, relief evident on his face. Deal. Later, as they stood at her door saying goodnight, Alec held her close. Thank you for dinner, and for giving us a chance. Thank you for being patient, she replied. This isn't easy for me. Worth it, though? He asked, a hint of vulnerability in his voice. She kissed him deeply in answer. Definitely worth it. The day of the gala arrived, and Jania felt like she might throw up from nerves. She had spent more than she should have on a midnight blue gown that made her feel beautiful and confident, but as the hour approached, doubt crept in. Her phone rang. Zora. It's the big night, her cousin exclaimed. Are you ready to step into your Cinderella moment? I'm terrified, Jania admitted. What if I use the wrong fork or say something stupid? Girl, you graduated summa cum laude. You can handle a fancy dinner. Zora's voice softened. And from what you've told me, this man doesn't care about any of that stuff anyway. It's not just him I'm worried about. It's everyone else. His sister, his colleagues, the press. Since when do you care what people think? Zora challenged. The Jania I know doesn't take crap from anyone. Jania smiled, drawing strength from her cousin's words. You're right. I've got this. Damn straight you do. Now go get ready and send me pictures. After they hung up, Jania took her time with her makeup and hair, creating a simple but elegant updo. When she finally slipped into the gown, she allowed herself a moment of pride as she looked in the mirror. The woman staring back at her looked confident, beautiful, and ready to face the world. Alec had insisted on sending a car for her, and at exactly 6:30 her buzzer rang. She gathered her small clutch and wrap, took a deep breath and opened the door. Instead of a driver, Alec himself stood there in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, looking so handsome it made her heart skip. I thought you were sending a car, she said, surprised. I wanted to pick you up myself. His eyes traveled over her, admiration clear in his gaze. You look absolutely stunning. You clean up pretty well yourself, she replied, feeling a blush rise to her cheeks. He offered his arm. Ready? As I'll ever be. The drive to the hotel hosting the gala was quiet, both of them lost in their own thoughts. Jania watched the city pass by, mentally preparing herself for what was to come. Remember, Alex said as they approached the venue, these people might have money, but that doesn't make them better than anyone else, including you. She squeezed his hand in gratitude. As predicted, photographers lined the entrance. The moment Alex's car pulled up, flashes began to go off. Here we go, he murmured, then turned to her with a reassuring smile. Just stay close to me. The car door opened, and Alex stepped out first, then turned to offer Jania his hand. The flashes intensified as she emerged, and she heard her name being called by reporters who had clearly done their research. Jania, look this way. Alec, how long have you and Ms. Brooks been dating? Alec placed a protective hand on the small of her back, guiding her through the gauntlet with practiced ease. He smiled for the cameras but didn't stop to answer questions. Once inside, Jania let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. You did great, he assured her, leading her toward the ballroom. The gala was even more extravagant than Jania had imagined. Crystal chandeliers hung from high ceilings, tables were adorned with elaborate floral arrangements, and everyone was dressed in designer evening wear that probably cost more than her annual salary. Alec, a woman's voice called from across the room. They turned to see a striking blonde in a red gown approaching, a tall man in a tuxedo beside her. Chloe, Alec greeted the woman with a kiss on the cheek. I didn't know you'd be in town. Last-minute decision, she replied, her eyes moving to Jania, and this must be the famous Jania. There was something in her tone that made Jania bristle slightly. Jania, this is my sister Chloe and her husband, James. Alec introduced them. It's nice to meet you, Jania said politely, extending her hand. Chloe shook it briefly. Likewise. We've heard so much about you. Her eyes swept over Jania's dress. That's a lovely gown. Is it Valentino? No, Jania replied simply. It's from a boutique downtown. How charming. Chloe smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Alec, Mother's been looking for you. She and Dad are by the bar. Alec's grip on Jania's hand tightened slightly. I didn't realize they were coming either. It's the biggest charity event of the season, And our family name is on the donor list. Of course they're here. Chloe turned to her husband. James, darling, why don't you get us some champagne while I introduce Janiyah to the Prescotts? They were just asking about her. Before Alec could object, Chloe had linked arms with Janiyah and was steering her away. Don't worry, I'll take good care of her, she called back to her brother. Janiyah glanced over her shoulder to see Alec's concerned face as he was approached by an older couple who must be his parents. So, Chloe said once they were out of earshot, you've certainly made quite an impression on my brother. He's made quite an impression on me too, Janiyah replied evenly. Chloe stopped walking, dropping the pretense of introducing her to anyone. Let me be direct, Janiyah. I don't know what your endgame is here, but my brother is not just some rich guy you can latch onto. Janiyah felt her cheeks flush with anger. Excuse me? He's vulnerable right now. His last relationship ended badly, and he's been working too hard. You caught him at a weak moment. You don't know anything about me or our relationship, Janiyah said, keeping her voice low but firm. I know my brother, and I know he doesn't fall for women like you. Women like me? Janiyah felt her temper rising. Drivers, service workers. Chloe waved a dismissive hand. It's a classic power imbalance situation. He feels like a hero, rescuing you from your ordinary life. Janiyah took a deep breath, refusing to cause a scene. For someone who claims to care about your brother, you have very little faith in his judgment. I'm protecting him. Our family has worked too hard to build what we have. And we can't have him throwing it away on a what? Janiyah challenged. Say it. Chloe's eyes narrowed. On a distraction, which is all you are, a phase he's going through. Everything okay here? Alec's voice cut through the tension as he appeared at Janiyah's side. Just getting to know each other, Chloe said with a false smile. I should find James. We'll catch up later, Alec. She walked away without another glance at Janiyah. What did she say to you? Alec asked, his jaw tight. Nothing I haven't heard before, Janiyah replied, trying to keep her voice steady. Apparently I'm a distraction and a phase. Alec closed his eyes briefly. I'm so sorry. Chloe has always been overprotective, but this is crossing a line. She's not the only one who thinks it, Alec. I can see it in the way people are looking at us. She wasn't wrong. Throughout the ballroom, people were stealing glances, whispering behind their hands. Let them look, Alec said firmly. He took her hand and led her to the center of the room. Dance with me. Now? After what just happened? Especially after what just happened. His eyes were intense. I want everyone in this room to see that I'm proud to be with you. That includes my sister and my parents. Before she could respond, he had pulled her into his arms, and they were moving across the dance floor. Alec was a surprisingly good dancer, guiding her with confidence. I don't care what anyone thinks, he said softly, for her ears only. Not Chloe, not my parents, not these society vultures. The only opinion that matters to me is yours. Janiyah felt some of her tension melt away as they moved together. Your sister thinks I'm after your money. My sister thinks everyone is after our money. It's how we were raised. He pulled her closer. But I know better. You're the least materialistic person I've ever met. That's not entirely true, she admitted. I do want financial security. I'm not immune to wanting nice things. There's a difference between wanting security and being a gold digger. Chloe will figure that out eventually. As the song ended, Alec leaned down and kissed her gently, right there in the middle of the dance floor. Janiyah heard a few gasps from nearby tables, but found she didn't care. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of introductions, small talk, and sidelong glances. Some people were genuinely kind, while others barely concealed their judgment. By the time they left, Janiyah was exhausted from the emotional roller coaster. But as they drove away from the hotel, she felt a strange sense of accomplishment. She had faced Alec's world head-on and survived. You were amazing tonight, Alec said, taking her hand. I know it wasn't easy. Your sister really doesn't like me, she sighed. Chloe doesn't like change. She'll come around. And your parents, you barely introduced me. Alec's expression tightened. My parents are complicated, my father especially. But that's not about you, isn't it? I saw the way your mother looked at me. They're from a different generation, with different expectations. He squeezed her hand. Give them time. Janiyah wasn't sure time would make a difference, but she was too tired to argue. When they reached her apartment, Alec walked her to her door. Can I come in for a bit? I'm not ready to say goodnight yet. She nodded, suddenly not wanting to be alone with her thoughts. Inside, she kicked off her heels with a sigh of relief. Mind if I change? This dress isn't made for relaxing. Go ahead, I'll make some tea. When she returned in leggings and an oversized sweater, Alec had loosened his tie and was sitting on her couch, 2 mugs of tea on the coffee table. "Better?" he asked as she curled up beside him. "Much." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "Thank you for tonight, for standing up for us." He wrapped an arm around her. "Always." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the events of the evening washing over them. "Your sister said something about your last relationship ending badly," Janya finally said. "You've never mentioned that." Alec tensed slightly. "It's not something I like to talk about. I understand if you don't want to, but I'd like to know. If we're doing this, really doing this, I should know your history." He was quiet for so long that Janya thought he might not answer. Finally, he sighed. "Her name was Rebecca. We were together for 2 years, engaged for 6 months. He stared into his mug. "She was from a good family, as my parents would say. Right background, right education, right connections. What happened? I found out she'd been feeding information about my company to her brother, who worked for a competitor." His voice hardened. "She claimed she didn't know what she was doing, that he'd just asked innocent questions, but the emails I found proved otherwise." Jania sat up looking at him. "She was spying on you. Industrial espionage wrapped in a relationship." He set down his mug. "It nearly destroyed the company. We'd been working on a revolutionary battery design, the one that eventually made me billions. If I hadn't caught her when I did..." "I'm so sorry," Jania said, understanding now some of his caution, his need for privacy. "The worst part wasn't the betrayal to the company. It was realizing that the person I thought loved me had been using me the entire time." He looked at her, his eyes vulnerable. "That's why Chloe is so protective. She saw what it did to me." "I would never do that to you," Jania said softly. "I know." He touched her cheek. "That's why I trust you. Why I'm letting you see parts of my life I've kept hidden from everyone else." The weight of his trust settled on her, both beautiful and frightening. "I don't want to hurt you, Alec." "Then don't," he said simply. "Stay with me. Let's see where this goes." She kissed him in response, pouring all her feelings into it. When they broke apart, both were breathless. "Stay tonight," she whispered. "Just to sleep. I don't want to be alone." He nodded, understanding what she was and wasn't asking for. "I'd like that." Later, as they lay in her bed, Alec's arms around her, Jania thought about how quickly her life had changed. A month ago, she was just a driver, picking up strangers and dropping them off without a second thought. Now she was falling in love with Alec Thorne, a man whose world couldn't be more different from hers. As if reading her thoughts, he pulled her closer. "What are you thinking about? How strange life is," she murmured. "All those rides, all those passengers, and then you got into my car." "Best ride of my life," he said, kissing her hair. She smiled in the darkness. Maybe they could make this work after all. The morning brought a harsh return to reality. Jania woke to the sound of her phone blowing up with notifications. She carefully extracted herself from Alec's arms and grabbed it from the nightstand. Her heart sank as she saw the headline on her news app. "Thorne heirs new girlfriend. The full story." Below it was a photo of her and Alec dancing at the gala and another older photo of her in her rideshare car. The article was filled with details about her life, where she grew up, her college, her jobs. They'd even found and interviewed an ex-boyfriend from years ago. Worse, there were quotes from an anonymous source close to the Thorne family, suggesting that Alec was going through a midlife crisis and that the relationship was causing tension in the family. Jania felt sick. This wasn't just an invasion of her privacy, it was a deliberate attempt to paint her as unsuitable, as temporary. She slipped out of bed and went to the kitchen, not wanting to wake Alec with her distress. But a few minutes later, he appeared in the doorway, his hair rumpled from sleep, her phone in his hand. "I saw the notification on your screen," he said, his voice tight with anger. "This is unacceptable." "It's what we expected, isn't it?" Jania said, trying to keep her voice steady. "More press, more intrusion. This is different, this is coordinated." He scrolled through the article. "And I have a pretty good idea who the anonymous source is. Chloe? Or someone she knows." He set the phone down and came to her, wrapping his arms around her. "I'm so sorry, Jania. I'll handle this." "How? You can't control the press." "No, but I can control my family." His voice was hard. "This stops now." He pulled away and grabbed his phone, dialing a number. "Victoria, it's Alec. We have a situation." He walked into the living room to continue the conversation. Jania leaned against the counter, feeling helpless. This was exactly what she'd feared, becoming a tabloid story, her life picked apart for entertainment. When Alec returned, his expression was grim but determined. "Victoria's issuing a statement condemning the invasion of your privacy. She's also contacting the outlet to demand a retraction of the false information. Will that help? It's a start. He took her hands. Jania, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest. Jania, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest. She looked into his serious blue eyes and nodded. Always. Is this too much? Alec asked, his voice soft with concern. The press, my family, all of it. If you want out, I'll understand. The question hung in the air between them. It would be so easy to say yes, to retreat to her simple life, to end the scrutiny and judgment. But as she looked at him, disheveled from sleep, worry lines creasing his forehead, she knew her answer. It's a lot, she admitted. More than I ever expected, but no, I don't want out. Relief washed over his face. Are you sure? Because I wouldn't blame you if... I'm sure, she interrupted, placing her hand on his cheek. I'm not giving up on us because of some tabloid story or your sister's disapproval. He pulled her into a tight embrace. I don't deserve you. Probably not, she teased, trying to lighten the mood. But you're stuck with me anyway. Over coffee, they discussed their next steps. Alec needed to return home to change before a series of meetings, and Jania had to get to work. I'll call you later, he promised at her door, reluctant to leave. And Jania? Thank you for being stronger than I have any right to ask you to be. After he left, Jania steeled herself for another day of whispers and stares at the office. But when she arrived, something felt different. Mrs. Henderson called her into her office immediately. Close the door, Brooks. Jania complied, expecting another lecture about distractions and professionalism. I've had 6 more calls from tabloids this morning, Mrs. Henderson said without preamble. And 2 reporters showed up asking questions about you. I'm sorry for the disruption, Jania began, but Mrs. Henderson waved her off. I told them all the same thing, that you're a dedicated, hard-working employee whose personal life is none of their business. She adjusted her glasses. And I informed them that harassing my staff would result in legal action. Jania blinked in surprise. Thank you. Don't thank me. I'm just protecting my office from disruption. But there was a hint of warmth in the older woman's eyes. That said, your personal situation has created some challenges for our workplace environment. Here it comes, Jania thought. The firing. I think it would be best if you worked remotely for the next few weeks, Mrs. Henderson continued, until this media circus dies down. You're not firing me? Firing you? Heavens, no. You're the only one who understands the filing system. Mrs. Henderson almost smiled. Take your laptop and the Taylor files. Check in via email daily. And Brooks? Yes? Don't let them define you. Any of them. Jania wasn't sure if them meant the press or the Thorns, but she appreciated the support either way. I won't. She gathered her things and left the office, feeling a strange mix of relief and uncertainty. Working remotely would protect her from office gossip, but it also felt like she was being hidden away, as if her relationship with Alec was something shameful. Back at her apartment, she set up her laptop on the kitchen table and tried to focus on work. Her phone pinged with a text from Alec. In meetings all day. Dinner tonight? My place, 7 p.m.? I'll send a car. She hesitated before replying. Being chauffeured to his mansion felt like accepting a role she wasn't sure she wanted to play, the billionaire's girlfriend who needed to be sheltered and protected. I'll drive myself, she texted back. See you at 7. His response came quickly. Even better. The gate code is 4731. Jania smiled, appreciating that he understood her need for independence. She spent the day alternating between work and obsessively checking news sites for more stories about them. Victoria's damage control seemed to be working. No new articles appeared, and several sites had amended their original stories with statements about respecting privacy. At 6:30, Jania got ready for dinner, choosing simple jeans and a soft sweater rather than trying to dress up. This was who she was, and if she and Alec were going to make this work, he needed to accept that. Driving through the gates of his estate felt different this time, not as intimidating, not as foreign. The house lights were on, warm and welcoming against the darkening sky. Alec met her at the door, casual in jeans and a Henley, looking more relaxed than she'd expected after his stressful day. Hi, he said, pulling her into a kiss. I missed you. It's only been a few hours, she laughed, but she'd missed him too. Inside, the scent of something delicious filled the air. You cooked? She asked, surprised. I had some help, he admitted, leading her to the kitchen where a woman in chef's whites was placing covered dishes on the counter. Jania, this is Maria. She's been keeping me fed for years. The woman smiled warmly. So you're the one who's finally teaching him there's more to life than work. Good for you. Jania liked her immediately. I'm trying, but he's stubborn. Don't I know it? Maria wiped her hands on a towel. Everything's ready, Mr. Thorne. Just heat the soufflés for 8 minutes exactly. After Maria left, Alec uncovered the dishes, a feast of roasted chicken, vegetables, and what looked like homemade bread. This is amazing, Jania said as they sat down to eat. Maria's the best, he agreed. I'd be eating takeout every night without her. So much for your pasta-making skills, she teased. Hey, I can make exactly one dish well. I never claimed to be a chef. The easy banter continued through dinner, both of them tacitly avoiding discussion of the morning's drama. But as they moved to the living room with glasses of wine, Alec's expression grew serious. I spoke with my sister today, he said. Had quite the confrontation, actually. Jania tensed. About the article? About everything. Her behavior at the gala, the anonymous source, her prejudgments about you. He set down his wine glass. I made it clear that I won't tolerate any more interference. How did she take it? Not well at first. There was yelling. He smiled ruefully. Thorns aren't known for our quiet disagreements, but eventually she listened. And she admitted she might have been hasty in her judgment. She's agreed to give us a chance. He took Jania's hand. She'd like to have lunch, just the two of you. Jania's eyebrows shot up. Just us, no buffer? I know it's asking a lot, but it would mean everything to me if you'd try. His eyes were hopeful. Chloe's important to me, and so are you. I need the two most significant women in my life to at least be civil to each other. Put that way, how could she refuse? Okay, she agreed reluctantly. One lunch. Thank you. He kissed her hand. There's something else we need to discuss. That sounds ominous. Not ominous, just important. He shifted to face her more directly. I had a long talk with Victoria about our media strategy going forward. We have a media strategy now. We need one. The press isn't going to lose interest anytime soon. He looked apologetic. You're dating Alec Thorne, that makes you news whether we like it or not. The reality of those words settled heavily on her. So, what's the strategy? Controlled visibility. Instead of hiding and giving them reason to dig, we give them just enough to satisfy curiosity. He squeezed her hand. Within boundaries, we set together. What kind of visibility? Occasional appearances at public events. Maybe one carefully selected interview with a reputable outlet. Nothing invasive, nothing that makes you uncomfortable. Jania considered this. And if I say no? If I want to keep my privacy completely? Alec sighed. Then we try that route. But honestly, Jania, total privacy might not be possible anymore. Not if we stay together. That sounds like an ultimatum. It's not meant to be. It's just reality. His eyes were sad. My world comes with scrutiny. I've managed to minimize it over the years, but I can't eliminate it entirely, especially not now that people know about us. She pulled her hand away, needing space to think. So I have to choose between my privacy and you. No, he said firmly. You choose how much of yourself you're willing to share with the world. I'm just asking you to let me help you navigate that choice. Jania stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city lights below. This was the fundamental issue they'd been circling since the beginning, their different worlds, the public versus private nature of their lives. I don't want to be a public figure, Alec, she said finally. I don't want strangers knowing my business or commenting on my relationship. I understand that. I don't want it either. He joined her at the window. But we need to be realistic. We can control the narrative, or we can let others control it for us. She turned to face him. And what about your family? Your sister may be willing to have lunch, but that doesn't mean she accepts me, and I haven't even properly met your parents. One step at a time, he said, reaching for her hands again. Chloe first, then my parents. They'll come around when they see how happy you make me. Are you sure about that? Because from what I've seen, the Thornes have very specific expectations. They do, he acknowledged, but I've spent my whole life meeting their expectations. Maybe it's time I set some of my own. The conviction in his voice gave her hope. Okay, she said. We'll try it your way. Controlled visibility, boundaries, and a sister lunch from hell. He laughed, pulling her into his arms. That's my girl. Your girl who drives herself, she reminded him. Always, he promised. I wouldn't have it any other way. The lunch with Chloe was scheduled for the following Saturday at a discreet restaurant known for its privacy. Jania spent the morning trying on different outfits, wanting to look polished but not like she was trying too hard. Just be yourself, Alec advised over the phone. Chloe respects authenticity, even if she doesn't always show it. Easy for you to say, Jania muttered. "Oh, you're not the one walking into the lion's den." When she arrived at the restaurant, Chloe was already there, elegant in a simple cream blouse and tailored pants. She stood as Jania approached the table. "Thank you for coming," Chloe said, her tone formal but not hostile. "I wasn't sure you would." "I considered standing you up," Jania replied honestly as she sat, "but I figured that wouldn't help our situation." A flicker of surprise crossed Chloe's face, followed by a reluctant smile. "Direct, I can appreciate that." They ordered drinks, maintaining a stiff politeness that bordered on uncomfortable. "So," Chloe finally said, "my brother is quite taken with you." "The feeling is mutual," Jania replied, meeting her gaze steadily. "I owe you an apology for my behavior at the gala," Chloe said, surprising Jania. "I was harsh and judgmental. It was uncalled for." "Yes, it was," Jania agreed, not letting her off the hook too easily. Chloe's eyebrows rose, but she nodded. "I deserved that. The truth is, I've been protective of Alex since we were children. He's brilliant but trusting. After what happened with Rebecca, he told me about her," Jania said. "I understand your concern, but I'm not Rebecca." "No, you're not," Chloe conceded. "From what Alec tells me, you're quite the opposite. Fiercely independent, unwilling to take his money or influence." "Is that so hard to believe?" "In our world, yes, actually." Chloe took a sip of her wine. "You have to understand, people have been trying to use our family for generations. Our parents taught us to be suspicious of everyone's motives." "That sounds lonely," Jania said softly. Something vulnerable flashed in Chloe's eyes. "It can be, but it's also necessary." Their food arrived, giving them both a moment to regroup. "Tell me about your family," Chloe said as they began to eat. Alec mentioned cousins in Louisiana. "My cousins Zora and Tiana, and my Aunt Loretta, who raised us after my parents died." Jania felt a pang of homesickness. "They're all the family I have." "You support them financially?" "I help with Tiana's college expenses when I can. She's the first in our family to go to university." Chloe nodded, seeming to reassess something. "And what about your own ambitions?" Alec mentioned a business idea, a mobile bookstore. Jania was surprised he'd told his sister about that. "It's a dream I had to put on hold. Life got in the way." "Life has a habit of doing that," Chloe agreed. "But dreams shouldn't stay on hold forever." The conversation shifted to safer topics. Books they'd both read, places they'd traveled. By the time dessert arrived, the tension had eased considerably. "I still have concerns," Chloe admitted as they finished their meal. "Not about your intentions, but about the challenges you two will face. Your worlds are very different." "We're figuring it out," Jania said, "day by day. For what it's worth, I haven't seen my brother this happy in years." Chloe's expression softened. "Whatever you're doing, it's good for him." It wasn't quite an endorsement, but it was progress. When they parted outside the restaurant, Chloe surprised Jania with a brief hug. "Welcome to the chaos of the Thorne family," she said with a small smile. "You're braver than I gave you credit for." Over the next month, Jania and Alex settled into a new rhythm. True to his word, he respected her independence, never pressuring her to attend events she wasn't comfortable with. When they did appear in public together, his team ensured minimal media intrusion. The tabloid stories gradually decreased as newer, more exciting scandals captured the public's attention. Jania was able to return to the office where the novelty of her relationship had worn off. On a quiet Sunday morning, they sat on the patio of Alex's home enjoying coffee and the newspaper, an old-fashioned habit he maintained despite his tech credentials. "I've been thinking," he said casually, not looking up from his section. "Dangerous," she teased. He smiled. "I have to go to New York next week for meetings. I was hoping you might come with me." "To New York?" She set down her mug. "For how long?" "Just 3 days. We could extend it to a week if you wanted. Make it part vacation." He finally looked at her. "Chloe will be there. She's offered to show you around her favorite spots." The fact that his sister was making an effort touched Jania. "I'd have to get time off work." "I thought you might say that, so I checked your calendar. You don't have any major deadlines next week." She raised an eyebrow. "You checked my work calendar." He had the grace to look embarrassed. "Is that crossing a line?" "A small one," she admitted. "But you're right, it's a quiet week. I could probably work remotely for a few days." "So that's a yes?" His face lit up with boyish excitement. "That's a yes," she laughed. "But I'm paying for my own flight." His smile faltered. "Jania, I'm taking the company jet. It's already going there." "Oh," she hadn't considered that. "Well, I'll pay for my own expenses while we're there." "How about we compromise?" he suggested. "I cover transportation and accommodations. You cover your personal expenses. And before you argue, the hotel suite is already booked for me, whether you come or not. It was a reasonable compromise. Deal, but no shopping sprees or extravagant gifts. Not even a small extravagant gift, he pouted playfully. Alec, fine, fine. No spoiling my girlfriend with the material possessions she so rightfully deserves. She threw a napkin at him. You're impossible. And yet you put up with me. His expression grew more serious. I love that about you, Jania. How you keep me grounded, how you see through all the trappings to the real me. The word love hung in the air between them, not directly spoken, but implied. Neither of them had said it yet, though Jania had been feeling it for weeks. You make it easy, she said softly. Being the real you, I mean. He reached across the table for her hand. Only with you. New York was a whirlwind of energy and contrasts. During the days, Alec attended his meetings, while Jania worked remotely from their hotel suite or explored the city. In the evenings, they dined at small, out-of-the-way restaurants he knew from his college days at Columbia. On their second night, Chloe joined them for dinner, bringing her husband, James. To Jania's surprise, the evening was pleasant, with Chloe making a visible effort to include her in conversations and share family stories. Alec was always the serious one, Chloe told her over dessert. Even as a child, he'd lock himself in his room with his science projects while I was trying to organize neighborhood fashion shows. She used to bribe me to be her runway model, Alec added with a grimace. Worst summer of my life. You were a terrible model, Chloe agreed. No sense of drama. Jania laughed, enjoying this glimpse into their childhood. No photos of this fashion show career? Absolutely not, Alec said firmly. Oh, I have an entire album. Chloe winked at Jania. I'll show you next time you visit Boston. The casual mention of future family visits warmed Jania's heart. Maybe they were making progress after all. After dinner, as they walked back to their hotel through the cool evening air, Alec seemed pensive. Everything okay? She asked, squeezing his hand. Better than okay, he replied. I was just thinking about how natural this feels. You and me, in my world, with my family. Like you've always belonged here. It's getting easier, she admitted, though I'm still not sure about meeting your parents. One step at a time, he reminded her. We'll get there when we're ready. The next day, while Alec was in his final meeting, Jania met Chloe for lunch and shopping in Soho. As promised, Jania paid for her own purchases, a scarf and a small leather journal, while Chloe bought half the boutique. You really won't let him buy you anything? Chloe asked as they walked to the next store. It's important to me to maintain my independence, Jania explained. I don't want to feel like I owe him, but that's what people in relationships do. Give each other gifts, take care of each other. And we do that in ways that work for us. I cook for him, he helps me with my car repairs. It's balanced. Chloe considered this. I've never thought about relationships that way. In my world, money is just another way to show affection. In my world, money comes with strings, Jania said honestly. Always has. I'm beginning to understand why Alec values you so much, Chloe said thoughtfully. You're teaching him things about life that our privileged bubble never could. They stopped for coffee, finding a small table in the corner of a busy cafe. Can I ask you something personal? Chloe said, after they'd settled with their drinks. Depends on how personal, Jania replied cautiously. Are you in love with my brother? The directness of the question took Jania by surprise. That is personal. I know, but I need to know if this is serious for you, because it's very serious for him. Jania took a deep breath. Yes, I love him, but we haven't said it to each other yet. Why not? Timing, I guess. And maybe a little fear. This relationship hasn't been easy, with all the external pressures. Chloe nodded. For what it's worth, I think you should tell him. Alec's always been cautious with his heart even before Rebecca. He might need to hear it first. It was strange receiving relationship advice from someone who had initially been so hostile, but Jania appreciated the insight. I'll think about it, she promised. When they parted, Chloe surprised her with another hug, this one warmer than the first. Take care of him, she said simply. Their last night in New York, Alec took Jania to a small rooftop garden at a friend's building in Brooklyn. Fairy lights twinkled overhead, and a small table had been set for dinner. What's all this? Jania asked, taking in the romantic setting. I wanted our last night here to be special, Alec said, helping her into her chair. Just the two of us. No business, no family, no interruptions. A personal chef served them a multi-course meal paired with excellent wines. They talked and laughed, recounting moments from their trip and planning future adventures. After dessert, Alec seemed to grow nervous, fidgeting with his napkin. Everything okay? Jania asked. "You seem distracted." "I have something for you," he said, reaching into his pocket. "And before you object, it's not extravagant, I promise." He placed a small box on the table between them. Not a ring box, she noted, with a mixture of relief and disappointment, but slightly larger. "Alec, just open it," he encouraged. "Please." Inside was a simple silver key on a plain keyring. "A key?" she asked, confused. "To my house," he explained. "I want you to be able to come and go as you please. No more buzzers, no more gate codes to remember. Just access. To my life, my space." The gesture touched her deeply. It wasn't a proposal, but it was a significant step, an invitation into his world on her terms. "Are you sure?" she asked, closing her hand around the key. "More sure than I've ever been about anything." He moved his chair closer to hers. "Jania, these past months have changed me, changed how I see the world, how I see myself. You've shown me what it means to connect with someone honestly, without agendas or expectations. You've changed me too," she admitted, "shown me that I can dream bigger, that I don't have to be defined by my circumstances." He took her hands in his. "I don't know what the future holds for us. I can't promise it will always be easy, but I do know that I love you and I want to build something real with you, however that looks." Tears pricked at Jania's eyes. "I love you too, Alec. I think I have since that first night in my car, when you thanked me for making you feel normal." He smiled, reaching up to brush away a tear that had escaped down her cheek. "You never made me feel normal. You made me feel extraordinary, just by seeing me for who I really am." Their kiss was sweet and full of promise, sealing words too long left unspoken. 2 months later, Jania stood in front of the rideshare app on her phone, finger hovering over the delete button. She hadn't driven for the service since before the New York trip, her remote work arrangement with the insurance company providing enough income for her needs. But deleting the app felt symbolic, like closing a chapter of her life. Her phone rang. "Alec." "Hey," she answered. "Perfect timing. I was just about to delete the rideshare app." "Actually, that's why I'm calling," he said, sounding excited. "Don't delete it yet. I need a ride." "A ride? Why?" "It's a surprise. Just accept the request when it comes through, okay?" Before she could ask more questions, he hung up. Moments later, a ride request appeared on her screen. The pickup location was her own address. Confused but intrigued, Jania grabbed her keys and headed outside. There, parked at the curb, was Alec, leaning against a sleek blue car she didn't recognize. "What's going on?" she asked, approaching him. He grinned, holding out a set of keys. "Your ride is here." "I don't understand." "This is your mobile bookstore," he explained, gesturing to the car, no van behind him. It was a customized vehicle with Brooks books painted on the side in elegant script. "Well, the beginning of it anyway." Jania stared in disbelief. "Alec, what did you do?" "Before you get upset, this isn't a gift, it's an investment." He handed her a folder. Inside is a business proposal. The Thorn Foundation is starting a literacy initiative for underserved communities. We need a partner to help implement it, a mobile bookstore partner. She opened the folder to find a detailed business plan, complete with budget projections, operational guidelines, and a contract naming her as an independent contractor. "This is a lot to process," she said, overwhelmed. "The foundation provides the initial capital, you provide the expertise and passion. You'd be your own boss, building the business you've always dreamed of." His eyes were earnest. "It's legitimate, Jania. Victoria vetted the whole thing with our legal team to ensure there's no conflict of interest. We'd be business partners, separate from our personal relationship." She walked around the van, running her hand along the painted letters of her name. "You really did this for me?" "With you, not for you," he corrected. "I just opened the door. You're the one who'll walk through it and make it your own." Emotions welled up inside her, gratitude, love, and a surging sense of possibility. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll think about it," he suggested. "Read the proposal, make changes, tell me what you need to make it work." She nodded, still processing. "I will." "There's something else," he said, reaching into the van and pulling out another folder. "The foundation is hosting a gala next month to launch the literacy initiative. I'd like you to be there, not just as my girlfriend, but as our partner organization." A public announcement, she realized. This would make everything official. Us, the business, all of it. "It would," he agreed, "but only if you're ready." Jania thought about how far they'd come from that first night in her car, the challenges they'd faced, the boundaries they'd established, the love they'd built. She thought about her cousins back in Louisiana, how proud they'd be to see her name on a business, making a difference in children's lives. "I'm ready," she said with growing confidence. For all of it. Alec's face lit up with the smile she'd fallen in love with, the one that transformed him from billionaire to simply the man who saw her, truly saw her. One more thing, he said, reaching into his pocket. I was going to save this for a more romantic moment, but now feels right. This time it was a ring box. Jania's heart stopped. I'm not proposing, he said quickly. Not yet, but I wanted you to have this. Inside was a simple silver band with a small diamond. It's a promise, he explained, that whatever comes next, the business, the public appearances, meeting my parents, all of it, we face it together as equals. Tears filled her eyes as she let him slip the ring onto her right hand. Partners, she agreed. In everything. He pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. Thank you for the ride, Jania, he whispered, echoing his words from that first night. I haven't felt this real in years. She smiled through her tears. The ride's just beginning, Alec Thorne. And as they stood there, the afternoon sun glinting off her new ring and the words Brooks Books shining behind them, Jania knew that whatever roads lay ahead, they would travel them together. Two people from different worlds who had found a way to create one of their own. 6 months later, Jania parked the Brooks Books mobile store outside an elementary school in a neighborhood much like the one where she'd grown up. Children pressed their faces against classroom windows, excited for the visiting bookstore they'd been promised. As she prepared to open for the day, arranging displays and checking her inventory system on the tablet Alec had insisted was a business necessity, her phone buzzed with a text. How's my favorite business owner today? Still on for dinner with my parents tonight? She smiled, typing back. Little nervous about both. First school visit and first official Thorne family dinner. His response came quickly. You'll wow them all just like you did me. Love you. Love you too, she replied, feeling the weight of her promise ring, now joined by a simple engagement band as of 2 weeks ago. She slipped the phone into her pocket and opened the doors of her mobile bookstore. As children began to stream out of the school, their faces lighting up at the sight of all the books, Jania felt a sense of purpose and belonging she'd never known before. This was her dream, coming to life, not handed to her, but built through partnership with the man who had once been just another passenger in her car. As she welcomed the first excited children into her store, Jania thought about the long, winding road that had brought her here. From driving strangers through the night to building a future with Alec, from hiding from photographers to confidently standing beside him at foundation events. It hadn't been an easy ride. There had been bumps and detours, moments when she'd nearly lost her way, but as her Aunt Loretta always said, the most worthwhile journeys rarely follow a straight path. And this journey, her ride to forever with Alec, was just beginning. She couldn't wait to see where it would take them next.